This is CBS 2 News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Williams.
And I'm Dana Kozlov. Our coverage continues now with the funeral of Chicago firefighter Andrew Price. The public visitation now underway. Early this morning, our crews were on the scene as the procession began. You could see top brass from the Chicago Fire Department standing in unison, and then bagpipers marching in unison. Family members and friends standing and waiting to say their formal goodbye to Price.
The 14-year department veteran died a week ago battling a fire in Lincoln Park. A private visitation was held about 2 hours ago. His public funeral begins in just a few minutes. CBS 2's Chris Habermill, himself a firefighter, joins us live from the CBS News hangar. Chris, this is the fourth time this year a Chicago firefighter has been laid to rest this year.
Indeed. Jim and Dana, we lost Jermaine Pelt in April 4th, and then Lieutenant John Torek immediately after that, the next day on April 5th. Then Lieutenant Kevin Ward was injured in a house fire in August 11th, and passed about 17 days later in the Loyola burn unit. And now, a week ago today, we lost Andrew Price. And so there are too many final calls, too many last calls here. And the Chicago Fire Department is hurting. The city of Chicago is hurting. But far and away, the people who are hurting the most are the friends and family members of Andrew Price. And friends called him Drew. He's a guy who's just full of life, full of energy, full of enthusiasm, passion for the job, for his fellow firefighters, for the art of being a firefighter. Worked out at the academy on both the firefighting side and on the medic side. His remains were brought to the Aon Grand Ballroom at the east end of Navy Pier this morning, about 9:45 or so, or 8:45, I believe. And as you can see here, being carried in among friends and family members and other gathered uniform members of the fire department. These are honor guards from numerous suburban fire departments there. You can see the engraved axe as Andrew Price is brought in to lie before the gathering there. Hand salute. Everyone clad in white gloves and Class A uniform. His helmet with the shield of Truck 44, where he was assigned, his turnout gear, his turnout coat there with his name on the tail. And that set up on the front of the Academy engine. Here's a view of uniform members who were assembled as the massed pipes and drums of the Chicago Fire and Police Departments brought him forward with a processional. Typically Balmoral is played, and Going Home and other musical tributes there as members of Engine 55 and Truck 44, those he worked with the closest, serve as the pallbearers to bring him inside. So we are entering the next step in saying goodbye to Drew Price, and the city of Chicago has been paying tribute to him, and the service is going to be getting underway at noon. Here we should be in the process of having a uniform Chicago personnel walkthrough. Any fire department members can participate in this, and as you can see here, this is a live picture from inside the Grand Ballroom, and firefighters raising their hand in salute with the white gloves there. These are the officers of different fire departments, the Chicago Fire Department, suburban fire departments, other fire departments from around the state, from around the nation, and I dare say there are fire department members in attendance internationally as well. In the unfortunately way too many line of duty fire department funerals that I've attended, witnessed firsthand the support and the camaraderie from firefighters from New York. They're, of course, in the aftermath of 9/11, more than they really make the effort to get to line of duty firefighting deaths across the country, and even retirees as well. And as you can see, the firefighters coming through, as you come up to where firefighter EMT Price is laying in state here, you can see that the hands will come up, you render a hand salute, and then they very slowly come down. When you're in a funerary surroundings, you actually render honors very slowly, very solemnly, and then you retire that salute as you pass here. So again, the friends and family members up front there, facing where Drew is in state, honor guard on either side. He has not been alone since the moment he fell to this point, and until the final goodbye, he will have an honor guard with him. His brothers have been with him by his side, not only during the rescue and resuscitative attempts, but also at the hospital, the medical examiner, the funeral home, here, and then the final goodbye there. You can see a picture of him as well, floral tributes on there are easels on either side there, of course, and as you can see, there are plenty. These are the officers. We form up in rank order, so the command staff and the officers from the Chicago Fire Department first, Chicago Fire Department uniform members, then your mutual aid or your visiting out-of-town companies there would come through on the line. So dozens and dozens, I dare say hundreds of firefighters here, of course. We're still looking at all of the white caps here. These are all officers. These are all line officers here, company officers, firefighters that may be out on the street that could come by. They will also join in this in just a little bit, but the uniform of the day is obviously the Class A with the tunic and the white gloves and what have you here. This is a very large ballroom. The top of that ceiling is about 80 feet tall. You can get about 1,100 people in there, so you can kind of judge for yourself as you're taking a look at this camera footage here, how many people are in here and how many firefighters are passing here to render honors to Andrew Price. All across the world, firefighters are one huge family, and when one firefighter falls, we all feel it. And knowing that it could be any one of us. It's a dangerous occupation, much like law enforcement. You're out there in the public interest, making sure that you help out people that you may not know, you may not ever see them again, but you are there in order to give service, give of yourself, and there's a lot of duty, pride, tradition that goes with the fire service. You will see as the services get underway, they will ring the 335, in other words, the bell code at the concluding the ceremony or getting close to the end of the ceremony, where that is actually a fire alarm code that dates back to the old telegraphy days, when the fire bell would ring and the different alarm codes would signify what kind of a fire it was, how big it was, where it was, and who responded. And when 335 was rung, and listen for that, those of you, hopefully you stay with our coverage here of the funeral service, you will hear the members of the Chicago Fire Department ring that bell code to signify that a company has returned to quarters. You see the crossed ladders or the raised ladders, that is symbolic. Not only the archway, which honors those who pass underneath, but it's also symbolic here of a bridge from one life to the next. So that being the case, you will see that there are a lot of flags that are flying outside. You saw that when they first pulled up, the flags of the different battalions in the city of Chicago, of which there are 24 battalions. There's a special operations battalion split up among 5 districts. So there's a lot of things that you will see that are very visual that mean a lot to a lot of the folks that are out there. So again, thank you to the family for sharing Andrew Price with us for so
Chris,
long.
you know,
Jim and Dana.
Chris, this is such a moving show of respect, and I think you summed it up when you said, when it comes to, firefighters, when one falls, they all feel it. Is that why it is so important for so many firefighters from across the state and the country, and gosh, potentially even the world, to attend funerals like this? Is it's a sort of a sense of camaraderie, a show of respect, and also maybe reinforcement of the family, as you put it?
Because of the family and knowing how much, when let me put it to you this way, Dana, when you're in the fire service and it's 2 a.m. in the morning and someone has called 911, they're running up the white flag. There's something has happened in their life that they can't handle, and it's up to you to try and make it better. So when you interact with people who are down on their worst day, you see the emotion and you feel it. And the same thing here. You know that the family is hurting, and you would know that any one of those men or women that are in that room or in the fire service would come running at a moment's notice to help your family out should something happen to you.
Hey, Chris, thank you for that insight.
Chris, I have one question for you. Firefighters always say they're always a part of the family, even after they retire. Those retired firefighters who are attending this funeral today, are they in uniform as well?
Yes, there are retirees that maintain their Class A uniforms. There are a lot of retirees that work with the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, with the Gold Badge Society, with the 100 Club of Illinois, Local 2 here of the Firefighters Union, and they keep very active. There are a lot of ranking personnel there and firefighters who retired out. There were firefighters on the street, but these are their brothers and sisters, and when one hurts, we all do.
Yes.
And so you come out to show respect, and everybody, when you retire out, you maintain all of those connections with everybody else. Mm-hmm. And it's very important for everybody to see that even the retirees come out and a lot of these guys are legendary in the fire service. Here in the city of Chicago as well, we are very blessed to have a lot of legendary firefighters who are important in instructing in the fire service across the world. They've traveled across the world to bring the things that we have learned in the city of Chicago, the firefighting techniques that were pioneered here, and some of the apparatus that was built here, and the special things that were done for the citizens of Chicago by the Chicago Fire Department. They have a proud heritage of passing that knowledge on, and so they are here not only for their fellow firefighters and the family, but just to reinforce to everyone, including members of the public, that no matter how long you've been in the fire service, once a firefighter, always a firefighter.
So much for that insight. We really appreciate it. We'll be checking back in with you in a little bit, but wow, really moving to see. It's hundreds of firefighters, passing by and showing their respect for the fallen firefighter.
As he said, some active duty, some retired.
Mm-hmm.
As Chris mentioned, Andrew Price is the 4th firefighter in Chicago to die in the line of duty this year. Lieutenant Kevin Ward died in August, in just 2 weeks after he was injured in a fire on the city's northwest side. He was 59 years old. In April, we lost 2 Chicago firefighters within days. Jermaine Pelt died fighting a house fire in West Pullman, and then Lieutenant Jan Torek collapsed and died while fighting a fire in a Gold Coast high-rise. And today is the 4th firefighter, Andrew Price.
Very difficult day for the department, for sure.
As you might imagine, this has been an incredibly difficult day, as we've been saying, for the department, losing 4 firefighters.
One person helping us make sense of all of it is Dr. Carrie Steiner, a licensed clinical psychologist and former Chicago police officer. Dr. Steiner, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I think the first thing I want to ask you is, when you are a firefighter or related to a firefighter, how do you begin to process something like this?
Very difficult, and in the very beginning, I think that most people are feeling shock and disbelief, and I think that it takes a process to actually focus and really accept what has occurred, and this takes a process. So the officers and firefighters and all first responders and all of their family, they're going to go through different stages of grief and anger and shock. And one thing that people don't understand about grief is that it's not like you complete one stage and then you go to the next. These are constant going back and forth. And so there's going to be a lot to process, especially for the Chicago firefighters who's lost 4 people this year. And this is going to be a reminder of the other 3 as well. So it's a lot for these firefighters to cope with, as well as all the firefighters across the whole country, and especially here in Illinois, as it hits home.
Dr. Steiner, so what is the support system in place right now for those surviving firefighters and the family of the firefighters?
Well, all of the Chicago firefighters can reach out to their employee assistance program. We also have the Illinois Association of Firefighters, which has a peer support line that they can contact. And then obviously there's agencies like mine that we specifically work with only first responders, and the firefighters can reach out on their own to get help for themselves. They also have several pastors that are available, and again, whatever the firefighters whatever feels comfortable for them is what they should do. We always talk about the 3 C's, and that is choose what feels best for you, what feels comfortable. The other thing is to connect with people. It's easy to want to isolate, but you really want to connect with other people. And then the third thing is to communicate and share your feelings. Otherwise, the problem is that will leak out when you're not expecting it to. And firefighters are a proud group of people, and they want to be able to hold their emotions, and so it's important that they are doing those 3 C's so they don't have that emotion leak out when they're not expecting it.
Yeah, I would imagine that's especially important for Firefighter Price's fellow firefighters who were on scene with him that morning, is to make sure they communicate. Dr. Carrie Steiner, thank you so much for joining us this morning and providing your insight as well. We really appreciate it, and we'll be right back. We are back now with more on the funeral for Chicago firefighter Andrew Price. We've learned so much about him over the past few days, like he would often say mahalo and give the hang loose symbol. Friends and family say he always expressed gratitude.
Friends and family all say one thing, that firefighter Price was selfless and beloved by many. Tributes
are pouring in. We'd like to share just a few of those tributes with you right now. Here, his mother writes, "It was an honor to be your mother. My heart overflows with incredible memories of our life with our Andrew Benjamin. Oh, my heart adores and loves you so much. I cannot imagine doing life without you, my son. You have lived such an exemplary life." This one from his sister. If there ever was a superhuman on this earth, a true to form Iron Man running around Chicago, that would be you. And you would outshine them because of your genuine light and heart from within. I think everyone needs to have a great heartache in their life at some part, because that means they are truly, truly loved. From getting to be your co-pilot in this sister thing, it has been an honor. Your core of drive, heart, ambition, diligence, generosity, and love should be an inspiration to us all. Thank you for being in this world. You have been an outstanding brother. My heart aches knowing that the world will no longer have you in it. But there is comfort knowing that we can install your legacy in our own lives. Love you so much, Porky, a.k.a. Court. And firefighter Price had 4 siblings. He was one of 5 children. Our Chris Habermal is himself a firefighter and can give us some pretty pertinent insight into what the department is feeling right now. Chris joins us again from the CBS News hangar. Chris?
Well, Jim and Dana, thank you very much. One of the things we have to remember, too, is that as the tributes pour in and the funeral service goes on, there are companies on the street right now in every firehouse across this city and in the suburbs and in the state and in the nation that are doing their job uninterrupted and unbowed by what happened. They are taking this to heart, of course, and they go out on the street and they answer the call, and whether it's bells ringing or tones dropping or what have you, a pager going off, it is with the knowledge that someone has lost their life, but they take that person with them. So for those who are missing Andrew Price as much as anyone, just know that all those firefighters that are out on the street, the men and women of the Chicago Fire Department, of all of the city and the suburbs, the suburban departments, municipalities, small, whether you're a volunteer, paid on call, or a career firefighter, you take the memory of this man and what he gave, his ultimate sacrifice, the last full measure of his devotion to those who he served, you take that to heart. So I know personally in my badge case that I carry in my back pocket at all times, everywhere I go, the prayer cards from all of the firefighters that I've been a party to their funeral, covered on the air, those who have gone before me, they're in that badge case. And they go with me into burning buildings, overturned cars, people who are sick in the morning, and it gives you comfort to know that those men are there and that they are kind of keeping their eye on you, and that you've learned something from them. In their life and in their passing, you've learned to be a better person. You've learned to value life that much more and hold it more dear and more precious. And that those around you, you've learned to say, I love you. And that's important, too. If you're not in the fire service, if you're not in law enforcement, a first responder, a medic that's out on the street, anybody who's a healthcare worker, if you're a citizen in this life right now, just use this as the opportunity to learn to say, I love you. And if you do know a first responder, to tell them thank you, and that you understand that the job they do, if you're sitting in traffic and all of a sudden you hear a siren and you move over and there's a fire truck, apparatus of some sort, an ambulance, a police car that goes racing past you, they're doing that for you. They're doing that in order to put themselves in harm's way and with good training and good discipline to mitigate the risk to themselves to try and help you out. And they don't expect anything from it. They just will appreciate a thank you every now and again. It is a noble cause. It's a noble calling. And it's something that you have a lot of passion for. It's something that you are constantly training for. But sometimes, as you've seen in this unbelievable year, things do happen. So make sure that you tell somebody that you love them today.
Not too much to ask.
Right, you know, some heartfelt words. Thank you, Chris, from Chris Habermel. And I think it's also important to point out that Firefighter Price wasn't just a firefighter. He also taught at the Fire Academy, which means a lot of cadets are also going to really be feeling this loss, you know, today.
In fact, a truck from the Academy is outside the funeral right now, along with his truck at the fire station, paying tribute to him. We're joined again by Dr. Carrie Steiner. You were here earlier this year when we covered the other funerals. How do they begin to process something like this, Dr. Steiner?
It's just about talking and sharing the emotions, because I think so many firefighters are going to think that everybody else is handling it better than they are, but everybody is hurting, and it's okay to have emotions, and it's okay to share that and to use Andrew's name and the other firefighters' names and to be able to speak about him and to be able to connect with each other and to share the stories about him and the interactions they had. That's going to help them to be able to heal.
I would imagine it's a huge comfort to his family as well to see. We literally, I think, saw hundreds of firefighters, hundreds of them, paying their respects with a salute, a slow salute. I mean, that's got to be a real comfort to his family, too. I know comfort is hard to find right now for everyone, but I would imagine that means a lot.
It does. You know, it's the firefighter family and it's fire departments, and that's why they work as a team. They work as a group. They have that fire family, right? Each house, and so to be able to see everybody else come out and say, hey, we support you, we're here for you, and we don't leave anybody behind. And we're stepping up, just like they do every day for the citizens of Chicago, and anybody that needs help, they're stepping up for one of their own. And this is what's so amazing and about first responders is their selflessness.
Dr. Carrie Steiner, thanks so much for joining us this morning. It is now just before noon when the public service is set to begin. We will bring that to you next on CBS News and Channel 2.
For now, though, we will leave you with some of the sights and the sounds from today as the city says a final goodbye to Chicago firefighter Andrew Price.
Firefighter Andrew Price, who is being laid to rest today. The funeral at Navy Pier's Ballroom.
It just began a few minutes ago, so we'd like to join it now.
Shadow of death, you are with us. And this is our comfort and our hope. Amen. Good afternoon. My name is Rocky Suppinger. I am one of the pastors at the Fourth Presbyterian Church here in Chicago. It is my honor to be with you here today, with you as members of Drew's family, especially Laura, with you as Drew's friends and his neighbors, with you as his fellow firefighters. It is my honor to be with you, and it is my hope in this time to share some words of what I hope will be assurance and perhaps even comfort in a moment of terrible loss. Other people will also speak this afternoon, and they will tell of Drew's exceptional character and the impact that he made on their lives and on the lives and the experience of many, many, many people, more people than Drew could have ever known. We will hear tell today of courage and compassion, of great strength to go with a peaceful, easygoing demeanor. We will hear of the love of a husband, a brother, a son, an uncle, a colleague. I am sorry not to have known Drew personally, and so I will not be able to add my own voice to these personal tributes, but I hope that you will permit me in this time to offer a vision of Drew's life and of his death, and an understanding of all of our lives in light of the inescapable reality of death for all of us. The first thing that comes into vision when you try to focus on Drew's life, I think, is gratitude. The way Laura put it is that always expressing gratitude was Drew's way of life. And so let us focus our vision for a moment on gratitude. A way of life characterized by gratitude takes opportunity to say thank you for even the smallest, even the most common occurrence. Because gratitude is a way of life grounded in a recognition that the things that we have and the things that we enjoy in our life are gifts, that the very best things that come into our lives are those things that we didn't earn, things that we maybe weren't even looking for. Drew was a man who did those little things to express gratitude. He wrote notes to people. He sent them text messages to congratulate them on what they might consider small accomplishments, just so that they would know that he was thinking of them, that he cared about them, and that he was grateful for them. And so we are gathered today to give thanks, to express our collective gratitude, because Drew was one of the best things in the lives of the people who knew him and loved him. Even people who only just met him. Somebody from the neighborhood around the firehouse shared this story about meeting Drew. My wife, young son Jack, and I were walking past the firehouse in early October this year. Our son is a toddler and he loves all vehicles. He was pointing at the fire truck, smiling from his stroller. When Drew saw this, he got up off the couch, came up to our family, and invited us in for a tour. He let my son go up into the driver's seat of the truck, play with the wheel, and then Drew turned on the truck lights. My son was ear to ear smiling, loving the entire experience. Drew helped us take pictures, and my son could not have been happier. It was one of the coolest experiences we've had as a young family. I cannot tell you how happy it made all of us. He even sent my son home with a kid's firefighter hat. After that experience, my son wanted to be a firefighter for Halloween, and he is absolutely in love with firefighters and with trucks. A religious word for this kind of experience, perhaps, is grace. Grace is a lavish, unexpected gift, not the thing that we're working for through training and discipline, but the thing that we weren't working for at all, the thing that we didn't even know that we needed. And grace asks to be received only with an ear-to-ear smile of a toddler. That is gratitude as a way of life. Recognizing and appreciating the ways in which Drew always expressed gratitude for the people who mattered to him, of course, can make us grateful. Grateful for the time that we were given with him to do simple things like look at sunsets. Grateful for those text messages and those written notes. Pure gift, all of it. And we are grateful. Because Drew was a gift, and perhaps that gift is not done giving. Though we are all only here on this pier today because that gift has been inexplicably and suddenly taken away, yet the power of gratitude as a way of life is to empower a gift, to enrich our lives over and over and over again, even though the giver of that gift is no longer with us. Gratitude rejoices in all of life as a gift because none of this is inevitable. None of this has to be. And it won't always be. We know that. So we hold to one another as gifts today with an awareness made raw again this past week that we do not own one another, and that the claims that we make on one another's time and lives will not always be ours to redeem. Even the promises that we make to one another will not always be ours to fulfill, at least not in the ways that we are hoping and desiring to fulfill them. Recognizing the conditionality of all of our life can make us exceedingly grateful for it and for one another, and yet that does not mean that we regard death, this death, as simply part of the deal. Though faith takes comfort in the promise that death is not the end, life knows that it is nonetheless an end, a real end, and an unwelcome end. No matter how much we might have thought about and prepared for the possibility in advance. We lament the death of Drew Price, a man married to the love of his life barely 3.5 years, possibly not even halfway through his career, a person who as a teacher had so much left to give to the world. One of the great resources, I believe, of a spiritual life is lament. A lament is a cry of loss, a cry that asks, in the words of one biblical lament, is there any sorrow like my sorrow? A lament does not look for meaning in a loss necessarily, as if some silver lining could be outlined to explain it. No, a lament cries that this is not how things should go. Lament knows, of course, that this is always how things could go, but it knows just as well, deep in its bones, that this is never how things should go. More than explain or understand or accept, the operative word in lament, the operative words, rather, are weep and wail and groan. In 1936, the poet W.H. Auden gave the world a poem that feels to me today like a lament. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos, and with muffled drum bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message he is dead. Put crepe bows round the white necks of the public doves, let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good. A lament. Lament is critical. Lament calls on other virtues, because it takes courage to lose it in a lament when we lose someone we love, to say that we don't understand, we don't have the answers, and we don't accept it. Lament demands honesty, because the truth that is awful is hard to say when life wants us to get back up and look on the bright side. Ultimately, I think lament takes faith. Takes trust in God, who our belief might tell us could have prevented this. Trust all the same that God hears, is present to us, even as we rail against this brutal reality. This has not been prevented. Today calls for lament. Lament calls for faith, and faith calls for conviction. The Christian scriptures in the book of Hebrews defines faith as the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. The conviction of things not seen. So it is a matter of conviction that though a thing that every day could happen but never should does on a dreadful Monday in November actually happen, it is a matter of conviction that such things are not bound to happen. It is a matter of conviction that the occurrence of a tragedy, of this tragedy, does not diminish all of the gift that preceded it, and certainly does not forestall the promise of such good gifts yet to come. It is a matter of conviction that we have hope, that we are not stalked by sinister forces, human or otherwise, that are sure to doom our happiness from this day forward, but that instead we are pursued day after day after day, year after year, lifetime upon lifetime by a love that will never give us over to despair. It is a matter of conviction that despair is not our way of life. Gratitude is. Love is. So I'm urging conviction today, knowing full well that the things that require the greatest conviction are the things that are the hardest to see, the hardest to take hold of and to grasp. And as I urge that conviction, I share some as well. That love does its greatest work in the places that hurt the most. That though weeping lasts for the night, joy will come some morning. That life and creation will outlast decay and even death. That faith and trust and belief are never foolish. That saying thank you is always, always, always worth it. That life given for others in small gestures just as much as in a costly sacrifice is abundant life, is even eternal life. One last conviction. In gratitude for the life of Drew Price, in lament for his loss, and with conviction in the face of despair, we will find our way through today and through all of the days of promise yet to come. Let us pray. God of compassion, comfort us with the great power of your love. In grief and confusion, help us find peace in the knowledge of your loving mercy. Give us light to guide us into the assurance of your love. Amen. We'll now hear a tribute to Drew from Commissioner Nance Holt. Commissioner?
Good morning. Afternoon now, sorry. Let me first just say a special thank you. All the years I've been on this job, that was probably one of the longest walkthroughs that I've seen. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out today to honor Drew, to the departments that came from outside of Chicago, the suburban departments. The mayor wasn't able to be here today, but Rich Gaitis, his chief of staff, came. We have elected officials here. We have our police department standing with us strong, as they always do, and OEMC. We're public safety partners. We have the Gold Badge. We have the 100 Club. I mean, it's just amazing. And all the other organizations and people that came out today to honor such a dynamic person, thank you. So today we honor and celebrate the life of firefighter EMT Andrew Price of Truck 44. Drew, as we all called him, came on the job in 2009 and was assigned to Truck 47 and later to Truck 44. He was also detailed as an instructor at the Chicago Fire Academy in 2014, where he impacted a lot of lives. We are here to say a final farewell and share fond memories of a devoted husband, son, brother, uncle, friend, and co-worker. Our hearts are with the Price family as they deal with the terrible loss of Drew. Laura, Rochelle, and the entire family, I want you to know that you are not alone in your grief. And you are not alone in your love for Drew. We all love Drew. I believe that the true measure of a person's character is what is said about them when they're gone. One of my command staff members commented that not one single person had anything bad to say about Drew. That speaks volumes about the type of person Drew was and the character that he possessed. You did a great job, Mom. So what can I tell you about Drew? Well, recently he completed the physical fitness challenge. That's something we do every year in October, and it's voluntary. So Drew dresses up every year. And Laura, I know you noticed, he was dressed up like the Joker. So I'm serious, in full dress like the Joker. They said one year he was Batman, but that one didn't go over so well. So he's the Joker. Every year he comes and runs. We do a run, we do sit-ups, we do a bench press, and we do a stretch and reach. So he's dressed up like that. I mean, that brightened everybody's days. And they got pictures to show you if you want to see them. But it was like the coolest thing. Some of you who know Drew well, you know he was great at balance moves, and he helped teach a lot of people balance, our candidates and our firefighters who were already on the job. He also volunteered with the Mayor's Fitness Council. Everybody knows how much he liked working out and how important it was to him in his life. He was a regular along with Lieutenant Daryl Johnson, firefighter EMT Cameron McGurdy, firefighter EMT Gilchrist on NBC5 firefighter fitness segments. This was some time ago, but I think that's where everybody got to see what we actually do. And I mean, they did a good job representing exactly what firefighters do to get in shape. I was told by a good friend, Lieutenant Daryl Johnson, that Drew wanted to surpass him in his fitness. Now, Daryl is older than Drew. I won't say how old he is. He'll get me. But Lieutenant Johnson told Drew, the only time you can do that is probably when I'm 65. That's what he told him. So that's the kind of guy he was, always challenging. He was competitive. That was Drew. So thank you for sharing an amazing human being with us. I mean, amazing. His personality and zest for life was infectious. His impact on his fellow brothers and sisters will live on forever. What I know about Drew is he brought people together. He brought different races, different classes, different people together. He cared. He cared. He made an impact on all of our lives. I was told by one of his friends, and I hear his childhood friends are here today too, that that's who Drew was, and we got to know who he was too, that same man. Personally, to the Price family, remember that the Chicago Fire Department is your family, and you are ours. We will always be here for you, and please know that Drew's sacrifice will never, ever be forgotten. In honor of Andrew Price, let us all refocus on being thankful for those who come into our lives, because we never know, and we don't know the impact that they leave on our lives. God bless Drew, God bless the family, his co-workers, and wrap your arms around Laura and his mom, Rochelle especially, sisters Courtney, Carissa, Natalie, brother Jordan, and his in-laws, Karen and Timothy. Rest easy, my brother. We'll miss you, but we're going to go on. We're CFD strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll now have a tribute from Engine 55, Truck 44, Battalion 12.
A couple people are going to say a few words. I'm going to begin, but Drew, all those hand salutes you just got were all for the thank yous that you passed around like nothing throughout your lifetime. In honor of Drew, I'm going to start with some thank yous. To his family, Laura, Rochelle, Courtney, Carissa, Jordan, Natalie, we say thank you for sharing Drew with us. He has had a profound influence and effect on us, and we are better people for knowing him. To all those that have shown their support over this past week, worked behind the scenes, some people don't like to take credit for it, and supported us through this process, whether you donated a meal, a text, a hug, phoned a friend, sent flowers, tipped your hat in a procession. It was all noticed and very much appreciated. It's comforting knowing that we weren't going through this alone. We say thank you. To the brave members of the Chicago Fire Department that went to work that night and respond to unknown dangerous situations each and every day, we are proud to work alongside you. We say thank you. To the fine members of the CPD who risked their lives trying to keep others safe, thank you for all your support through these difficult times. We say thank you. To the amazing doctors, nurses, and first responders who fought so hard to give Drew a fighting chance. We know you represent all those across the country who tirelessly give of themselves to help those in need. We say thank you. To those that I'm leaving out, we say thank you. Please bear with us as we get through this. While our minds are numb and our hearts are broken, we are privileged to be here today to honor and represent a person that was truly loved by many. Who was Drew? We knew him as a genuine, funny, big-hearted, thoughtful, hardworking, gentle, and caring person. If you took them all in, and many more, mixed them all together, you caught a glimpse of what was in his soul. He was a great husband, son, brother, doggy daddy, uncle, friend, and firefighter. He made an impression on all those he came in contact with in his meaningful 14-year career. Our paths first crossed early in his career. I don't have this written down, so I'm going to get through this. He was detailed as a candidate, and I was detailed, and there was another fireman who I think might have been a drill instructor. Drew was riding along with the Ambos. He was still signed to the academy, and he came in, and this guy looks at him, and he goes, who are you? Candidate Firefighter Price, sir. He goes, hey, take it easy. He goes, you're not at the academy anymore. He goes, you're in the firehouse. He goes, so grab a bottle of water, get yourself something to drink. So Drew goes to grab a bottle of water, and this guy, and I'm going to clean this up, this guy goes, you gotta be kidding me. These thieving candidates are grabbing our water. And Drew puts the water back, and he was befuddled, and I'm sitting there like, okay, this guy's pretty serious, And then the guy goes, no, I'm just kidding. Come on, you got to have thick skin to be in the firehouse. He goes, take it easy and wait for the guys to get here. They'll tell you what to do. So Drew goes to sit down, and this guy goes, look at these lazy candidates. Sitting down on the job, they haven't even been in the firehouse for 5 minutes. Drew springs up. He looks around like, what am I doing? What's going on? This guy, well, he was told to do something. He did it, got yelled at for doing it, and then he did it again. It was at that point in time that I knew Drew was not only going to be able to fit in the firehouse, but he was going to be a great fireman. Drew was active, fit, and always willing to help out. Our paths crossed again not long after, as we both sort of volunteered to join the CFD Blaze football team. One of us was going to coach and the other one was going to play. I'll try and let you figure out who did what. I came to learn that Drew had never played football before. It was a bit intriguing to me because football isn't a sport that people take up later in life normally. But he had this love for it and he wanted to get involved. To him, it was a new adventure, an opportunity to meet other guys on the job. And I've seen so many familiar faces from that team that I haven't seen in a long time. But that team really did bring a lot of people together that you might not have ever met in your whole career on the fire department. And I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for getting involved with that. So while his football IQ was a bit behind, his determination and willingness to work was not. He asked questions all the time, came to practice all the time. A lot of guys who are here know that we went from 60 down to 9 some days, but Drew was always there. He approached every practice and game as a new challenge, set his mind to it, and succeeded. He played every special team. A lot of the time, guys didn't want to play special teams. Drew would jump in. He wanted to just do whatever he could to help out. Became a defensive back. There might be some pictures floating around of him flying around the field with his hair extensions in. That's a story for another time. After a couple seasons, I watched him become the guy that was helping the new guys out. What a progression. After every game, I'd give Drew a handshake and a hug, pay him a compliment. Nice tackle, good coverage, great interception. No matter what, Drew would always respond with, "You did a good job today." Again, being thankful for others. Wow. I watched that determination transition into the firehouse. Drew and I started working together on Truck 44. Drew always tried to do the right thing. He had pride. He worked at making himself a better fireman. He was invested. He listened to the senior guys and genuinely took interest in how to do things. You never had to ask him if he did his morning checks, if he had his uniform, if he started the saws, washed the rig, or did the inventory. He didn't need to be reminded. He did it. He eventually became the senior guy and #1 driver. That was through hard work. He earned that spot. Normally, some of those other responsibilities get kicked down to the younger guys. Drew kept doing them. He wanted to lead by example. He made sure that rig was squared away each and every day that he was there. You didn't have to dig deep to see who Drew really was. He wrote it, he said it, he showed it. He expressed it in every text or every conversation. He let you know in many pictures. His mahalo was being grateful that he was with you, grateful, being in the moment, grateful for all these small little things that happen in life that most of us take for granted. What a life to live where you can actually recognize and appreciate and be grateful for everything that's happening at the moment it happens. Every picture Drew was in, he would hold up that hand sign. I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was more mahalo stuff. And to be honest, my simple mind went to, what part of Indiana are the Hawaiians living in? But I finally looked it up. The shaka sign, this, is used to share aloha or love. It's given warmly to friends and strangers as a symbol of gratitude or thank you. The shaka is rarely, if ever, used in a sarcastic manner. It's kept sincere and pure, just as it should be. Sincere and pure. To me, that's who Drew was. We will rebound. We will eventually recover. But most importantly, we will always remember Drew for who he is and was. My guy, I hope you have big waves to catch, bright sunshine coming down on you, and a nice warm breeze at your back. I know you got your hat on backwards with your sunglasses on and a nice big smile on your face, just enjoying it. May you rest easy now, my brother. Take it all in and just chill until we meet again. Mahalo, mahalo.
My name is Dustin Jeffers, known as Dusty throughout the fire department. Please bear with me. I was one of the lucky ones that got to meet Drew about 10 years ago. He was my instructor in the academy. A few weeks into the academy, my family was in town and they needed to use my car for the day. I was sitting across the street waiting in the Jewel parking lot when Drew pulled up and said, "Mr. Jeffers, can I give you a ride?" I was so nervous. I've only known him as my instructor. So I said, "No, thank you." I didn't know if it was some kind of setup or a new kid prank. A few days later, I realized it wasn't. Got his number and sent him a text to him that I'm sure started with, "Instructor, Mr. Price." I was so nervous. This is where our friendship began. It would take a lifetime to tell all the stories about our short 10 years of friendship. If anyone knew Drew, you knew the DP language. Drew had his own language, especially in text messages. He actually said to me he never liked to use the letter I. So he would always use it as the letter Y instead, like, L-Y-K-E. I would like to think he never liked the letter I because everything in his life was about others. He was always complimenting people and doing small things for others. He was truly selfless. Also, if you knew Drew, you knew he was also the ultimate jokester of the firehouse. Drew was known for laying under your bed for a very long time, waiting for you to come in the room just to get a good scare. He was committed that way. I've actually hid in his locker many a times waiting for him to open it so I can jump out and scare him. Over the last couple years or so, he would be my go-to guy for venting. I think I became his as well. We would talk things out, get it off our chest, and then he would turn it around and say, now let's turn that into a positive. He always wanted to find a way to be happy and shift everything to positive. Every morning before shift, first text I ever got was Drew asking if I needed coffee. Cold brew, actually, not just coffee. A few shifts ago, I was working in another house, Engine 56, and he texted me asking me if I needed Starbucks. I was riding my bike that morning, so I did not get the text until I got to the firehouse. He was texting me all day saying that he felt bad, and he was waiting at Starbucks that morning for me to respond, and I didn't. So he got his own coffee and left. He felt bad because he thought he should have gotten me coffee and didn't. That's just how Drew is. He would feel bad about me not even answering if I wanted coffee that morning. I wasn't working at the same house, so he completely went out of his way for me. That was Drew. Another thing I loved about Drew is every time you see him, whether you spent 5 minutes, 5 hours, or all day, he would instantly send you his text, a text as soon as he got in the car telling you how great it was to see you. The day before his final shift on Saturday, him and Laura went to Costco, and he sent me a picture of the Christmas plant that they were getting for their house and asked if I wanted him to get me one also because they were so beautiful. I said sure, and him and Laura came by and dropped it off before they went home. We stood out front, Drew, Laura, me, my wife, and my 3-year-old son, and just talked. My son couldn't believe that he had another vehicle besides the fire truck and couldn't understand why he couldn't drive it over to our house to deliver the Christmas. I'm so thankful for that Christmas plant visit. It was the last time I saw him in person and got to hug both him and Lara. A day I will never forget. Now on to Costco. Both of our wives work during the day, so Drew and I always joke that we were the husband and wife taking pictures of Christmas plants or protein bars or anything we shot we thought we should share. And we'd buy each other for our Costco visits. The guys at the firehouse would always ask where my husband was after a day off and what we did that weekend because we had just a genuine bond. I know Drew also cherished his bond with his family as well. Recently, Drew shared with me details on his recent trip that him and Jordan took to Maine. I actually told my wife recently I want to find a way to get invited to that trip next year. It sounded like such a fun and special trip of them two. One of my favorite, most recent memories that I'll cherish forever was on Marathon Day this year. I've ran the Chicago Marathon the last few years, and every year, Drew would make a sign and hold it up for me. This year, a few of the guys from the house and Drew were going to come out and watch me. At the last minute, none of the guys could make it, but Drew was dedicated. He brought a chair, a sign, and his Starbucks, and sat in that chair for over 2 hours waiting to see me for 15 seconds. It's the type of guy Drew was. So today, I challenge you all to think about 2 traits, 2 words, that you would use to describe Drew. I want you to take those 2 words and bring them into your daily life. Let's make this world how Drew saw it, a beautiful and a better place. Mahalo, brah.
Good morning. My name is John Herring. Currently the captain on Truck 44. Pat Gallagher, who just spoke recently, was the captain prior to me. And I was very fortunate to come to this truck and already work with Drew, who had been working with Drew for a long time. I'd like to tell you a little story about Drew. And as Dusty just said, he truly had his own language. One of the things he would say when he met us in the morning, he would call us all my guy. And it was something that I'd only heard Drew say. So here would be a typical morning at the firehouse. As you have already heard, Drew would normally be the first one there. No matter how early we would try to get there, Drew would always be there before everyone else. My morning would start, "Good morning, my guy," he would say to me. And that was every morning. It normally took place in the front of the fire truck as we were putting ourselves in service. It was always accompanied by a smile and a look that only Drew possessed. It wasn't a judging look, but a look at you to make sure that you were okay. He would want to know how your previous days were since you last worked, and this would continue until he was satisfied with the details, and he would then move on to someone else. I would now hear him for the next hour say, "Good morning, my guy," throughout the rest of the shift, and you'd hear the sounds of hugs being given out. Days at the firehouse were always easy with Drew. As you have already heard, Drew was the hardest working fireman among us, and he took so much pride in everything. But what made Drew uniquely special was his cool, fun, always happy, and just chill personality. He had a way of making everyone around him happier. The days that Drew was on furlough or on vacation, there was always a notice in the firehouse that he wasn't there. We would inevitably those days end up talking about Drew in our normal conversation, and it would usually follow with a good laugh. As you have heard, Drew was the driver of Truck 44 and the senior member when I arrived. And for those that don't know, this is the most important on the truck, the most important position. It's a position of leadership and respect. And as you have heard, he took all of that with so much pride. He was patient and compassionate, and he took the time to work with his coworkers and the public. He took so much pride in driving that truck. Sometimes we would get back from a call, and he would apologize to me, and he'd say, "I'm sorry." I'd say, "Drew, what are you sorry for?" And he'd say, "Well, I should have taken this route or that route." To be honest, most of the time I didn't even know. He just found that it was such an important thing for him to do. He would leave the truck, he'd go look at our wall, which is a giant map, and he'd study it. And it was something that only I saw Drew do. "Drew, you were the best driver I've ever had. Thank you for always getting us to where we needed to go safely." The time inside the fire truck is usually a bonding moment for the members of the company. Drew and I would sit in the front, and the rest of the guys would be in the back. We would have our own conversations going. The fire truck's a loud place. That is where Drew would tell me about Laura and their wonderful life, their dogs, and their next wonderful trip. He would tell me about his family, Jordan and Courtney and Carissa and Natalie, and his mom and all his nieces and nephews. Like parents on a road trip, we would be listening to the chatter in the back. It was normally Dan and Will, Paul, Alex, and Frank, Tony, and Eddie, and Carlos. We were a lucky group with a lot of laughing and a lot of joking, no matter the time of day, no matter the stresses of the job. On our truck, Drew would see civilians waving all the time, and he would always return it with the Shaka Mahala. To this day, he would get the biggest smile as we would drive down the street, and the kids, before Drew got a chance, would be giving this out to us. There's a generation of kids in Lincoln Park right now that give that sign to Truck 44 all the time. The night of November 12th was the last night we would work together. Drew had the unfortunate duty of having the watch, which means he would be up the remainder of the night from approximately 10 o'clock on until the next morning. It was a normal night at Engine 55 and Truck 44, like many others. We heard Engine 55 go out on a few medical calls early, and then it was the truck's turn for a civilian assist or a well-being check. We were a lucky crew, as even though those aren't the most exciting calls, we laughed that night. You wouldn't imagine how many people don't wear the appropriate clothing at night. We returned around 5 o'clock in the morning to the firehouse, and we began to prepare to go home. At approximately 5:30, we were dispatched to a fire on the 2400 block of Lincoln Avenue. When we arrived on scene, there was smoke in the air and a civilian out front directing the chief to the rear is something I would later find out. Drew put Truck 44's main to work without hesitation. The aerial ladder was placed to the roof, and he proceeded up the aerial with Firefighter Mora to begin what's known as vertical ventilation. As they arrived to the roof and prepared to go to work, Drew stopped Alex, pointed out the light shafts, looked at the sunrise coming up with the skyline behind him. He told Firefighter Mora, "Mahala, brah, let's get to work." Drew always took time to see the best parts of life, the parts that many of us never noticed. Drew, you are very, very special. So one last time, good morning, my guy. Your brothers and sisters from Truck 44 and Engine 55 miss you and love you. Thank you for being a wonderful person, and thank you for being part of our lives. Now catch that big wave, enjoy that sunrise, and as the chief already said, just chill. Drew, we're going to be all right. We'll see you soon someday.
Hello, I'm Carlos Gonzalez. All right. It's March 18, 2021, my first day at Engine 55. I'm nervous. I walk in, and who's the first person I see? Drew Price. We introduce ourselves. He shows me around the house, and we fast forward 24 hours later. Day one is completed. Now that was March 18. On March 19, I received a text, barely making it into my car. Shift just ended, and it reads, "It's Drew Price," with his signature, hang loose. "Keep up the good work. Good working with you. Good working with you yesterday, and to many more. It meant a lot to me. I didn't know it then, but it was the beginning of a special bond." And that was just one text of many, many, many messages between Drew and I. At this moment, I'd like to share a few examples of what an incredible man Drew was. Drew once texted me, "I pride myself in honesty, being humble, and treating people with respect, even though they may not deserve it." Those were morals that he lived by, and I respect it. Another one was, "Ever have a question about anything? I got you. If I don't know the answer, we will figure it out together." If he saw potential in you, he wanted you to succeed, and he took the time to help you. Another text, "Better check under your bed for the monsters." In which I responded, "Scared the hell out of me." As Dusty said, he liked to keep the firehouse fun. If he wasn't hiding underneath your bed, you better watch it going around the corner. Saw funny games since 3 in the morning. One day I sent him a picture. I was walking, and I noticed on a building nearby that there was a tagging that said Drew. Took a picture, and I wrote, "This you?" In which he replied, "Yeah, let you know I'm always watching out for my guy." And then he said it was like his Batman call sign. I believed him. Not that he tagged that, but that he was always watching out for us like a big brother. Sorry. Those of you who knew Drew knew he loved football. Whether it was Thursday, Sunday, or Monday, if football was on, he wanted to watch. One day I knew one of his fantasy football quarterbacks was playing, so I texted him, "Hey, just got a touchdown." In which he responded, "Oh, hells yeah. Larbar just wanted to watch Narcos. Just missed it. That sucks." Mahalo for the heads up, though. For this man to miss football because he'd rather make his wife happy, now that was love. He loved you very much. All right. Drew, even though you're gone, we're still a team. And just like your Batman call sign, I know you're watching over us. Engine 55, Truck 44, Battalion 12, this shift is special. Lara, we're here for you. Drew, we love you, brother. West in paradise, till we meet again. Mahalo.
A final tribute this morning will come from Drew's brother, Jordan.
My name is Jordan Price, and I have the esteemed privilege of calling Drew my brother. We as a family would like to take a brief moment and thank the City of Chicago, as well as the Chicago Fire Department, for honoring Drew's legacy this past week. The outpouring of love and support from the community has been overwhelming, and I can tell you that it has given each of us in turn the strength to endure during these difficult times. To his members at Firehouse 55, especially those of you on Truck 44 who were on the scene with him the morning of November 13th, words are incapable of expressing the amount of gratitude we have for your courage that day. Please know there is an immense amount of respect that we hold for the bravery you display in stepping into the unknown to the sound of alarms. We need you to understand that Drew took the utmost pride in working with you as colleagues, partners, and friends. The great responsibility of driving Truck 44 was something that Drew cherished deeply. To his close friends in attendance today, I know we all feel a significant debt is owed to Drew for being there in times when we needed him most. Unfortunately, we will never be able to repay that debt in full. We can, however, honor his memory by sharing treasured stories and remembering how he made us feel during those times. For those of you lucky enough to have known him well, understand the significance of what it was like to be in his presence. I encourage everyone to not only grieve the loss of my brother, but to recognize how lucky we are to have had someone in our lives so significant that saying goodbye is all the more difficult. According to Victoria Alexander, when grieving a loss, there are 3 necessities a person needs. 1, to find the words for the loss. 2, to say the words aloud. And 3, to know the words have been heard. Today, the community has rallied behind Drew's memory, and as his brother, I feel a great sense of responsibility to share some words that help describe who he was as a man. Drew held a unique ability to make everyone near him feel special. He had an unrelenting and unselfish concern for the safety and well-being of others. A natural caretaker at heart, he couldn't help but put his own priorities aside to make sure everyone else's needs were above his own. He possessed a strength of character that radiated from him and that often infected others. He was so full of life, positivity, and a wild sense of adventure that it was hard to imagine anything or anyone bringing him down. Countless times, we found ourselves chaperones of someone Drew had just met because his immense kindness and genuine curiosity made people gravitate towards him. It was infuriating. He gave a piece of himself to each and every person he encountered, and I can honestly say that I've never met anyone quite like him. There are very few among us that possess Drew's inherent and effortless altruism. These traits define who he was to his very core, and without him in our lives, there's a void that can never be filled. Drew lived a life worth emulating, and as his lasting legacy, I hope he inspired you to live a life of gratitude. I ask that you please continue to honor our first responders by showing your support, and make sure to say a mahalo for Drew. Thank you.
We go from this place commending Drew to God's eternal care. And so go with these words of blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord be kind and gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you peace. Amen. At this time, I ask that all of the uniformed members gather in the east end of the pier for the recessional.
You have been watching the funeral at Navy Pier, the ballroom there, for firefighter Drew Price. A number of tributes from one of the pastors at Fourth Presbyterian Church, the fire commissioner, Nance Holt, fellow firefighters who served with firefighter Price at Engine 55, and his brother, Jordan Price, among others. The pastor said that he always expressed gratitude. It was a way of life. He wrote notes to people. He sent texts to people. There was one recurring thing that we heard was how full of life Drew Price was and how grateful he was to be in the lives of so many people. Pastor said, we lament the death of Drew Price. As a teacher, he had so much to give. Drew Price was an instructor at the Fire Academy. Let's go to Chris Habermill himself, a firefighter. Chris, you certainly have been touched by this service.
Oh, absolutely. Jim, as we're watching the uniformed members starting to leave the ballroom to assemble for the recessional outside at the east end of Navy Pier, the word gratitude rings over and over and over again. And the tributes that were paid by his colleagues at Engine 55, Truck 44, Battalion 12, the deep, heartfelt bond that they share will not be broken by this. It's strengthened by when something happens of this magnitude, where there is a palpable change in the firehouse when your brother's not there. But the memories live on. Maybe somewhat cold comfort to deal in memories when someone is so cherished and so loved and made such a deep, lasting impact on his friends. To reach out to the new candidates that have left the academy when they're first assigned to a fire station, and they come in on an assignment and you're the first person who's there, and on the completion of their first day after assignment to that firehouse, you get a text saying how great it was that you were there, that you did a great job, and that they look forward to working with you for days to come. That's powerful. That is something that all of us should be moved to do. And the call here is to take a piece of this wonderful person and his gratitude, his positivity, his willingness to interact with people who may have been complete strangers. We heard about a young couple and their infant son in a stroller going by outside the fire station up there on North Halsted, and the little one pointing at the fire truck, and Drew was on a couch, and he saw this, and he rose up and came out and gave them the tour of the fire station, and then let the little boy sit in the seat and hang on to the steering wheel, and then he turned the lights on. And that is something that is indelible for the life of a little one, and for the parents to understand and appreciate that this is what it's all about, that you're caring for your fellow man. This is, you reach out and you inspire somebody regardless of age. And those of you who are watching right now, regardless what the age range may be, if you are home, let's say, from school because it's Thanksgiving week, and you see something like this, and you may be inspired to become a firefighter or a police officer, think about and carry with in your skill set, your toolbox, your wheelhouse, a piece of Drew Price. You may never have been able to meet him. You may never have been able to know him other than the honorariums that have been given today, but let his light come out through you for the rest of your life. And now the uniformed members being called to attention to render the salute as Andrew Price leaves. And we hear the pipes and the drums with Going Home, the spiritual that is played as we say goodbye to a member. You can see the bell stand where the 335 will be rung at the conclusion of this service. Everyone coming to attention as soon as Drew Price is brought out of the ballroom. Everyone will render a hand salute. All of this being coordinated, of course, by representatives, the honor guard and whatnot, that unfortunately have done this a number of times, not just this year, but over the course of years. And here are the massed pipes and drums of the Chicago Fire Department and the Chicago Police Department. We're seeing the Fire Department pipers right there. Just beyond them in the background, the raised fire axe, the pickhead axe there that are polished and engraved, part of the tools and the tradition of the fire service. The Halligan bar, the axe, the pike pole, the ladder, the bugle, the helmet, the turnout gear, all part of your firefighting ensemble.
Chris?
And as we hear the strains of Going Home now. Yes, Jim.
I was going to note that the fire commissioner, Nance Holt, said that she had never seen such an extraordinary turnout. The walkthrough, she pointed to the walkthrough and all the firefighters who were there from outside of Chicago even.
Indeed, the firefighting family is here, and as a strong showing of support for the family and for Drew Price's not only his family and his relatives, but the other uniformed members of the Chicago Fire Department. It is important that you show you've got a patch on your shoulder, you have the representative collar brass and other markings that indicate that you're from an outlying company. That means a lot to see that in the crowd there. And you have people who've traveled hundreds or maybe even thousands of miles to be here to participate in this. So we're getting closer to him exiting where he has been at the front of the ballroom there. The pastor from 4th Presbyterian, Rocky Supinger, very touching words, a quite incredible tribute to Andrew Benjamin
including
Price.
Wonderful words, Chris, from Drew's brother Jordan, who said that his brother had the unique ability to make everyone feel special. He was full of life. He had a sense of adventure. He was just immensely kind. That's what we heard repeatedly throughout this service today, how kind this firefighter was.
And kindness, you would think it's inherent and comes with the job, but when you've been on the job for a long time, the threat is always there that you've seen so much that human beings really shouldn't see. You've seen when people are hurting, you've seen the worst parts of things that could really wear away at your humanity, and yet it seems it's strengthened Drew Price and reinforced his realization, his life realization, that you are to be grateful for the things that are around you, even the smallest things that happen, from the sunrise the morning that he lost his life in Lincoln Park to just normal, everyday, ordinary things. Just a trip to Costco,
yes.
Being at the fire station, laying under somebody's bed so you can give them a good scare. And we're going to be getting the hand salute now as the members of Engine 55 and Truck 44 have come out now. This is the pallbearers now leaving, and there will be a pause before he is put onto the carriage there in the hose bed of the Academy engine. We should be having the bell service here shortly. There's the members of Drew's family, the dignitaries who are gathered here, and you see in the background the bell stand. In a moment we will pause for, I believe, the ringing of the 335 code as he is carried home for the final time. The one thing that I've seen over and over again, and the thing that I couldn't help but be brought to mind here is, okay, here's the party coming forward. I do believe we're going to have the bell service here shortly, and I will pause for that as everyone gets into position here. He is being brought down, and he will be placed onto the engine here shortly. The bell stand in the background, I believe at that point they will ring the bell code. So they move forward slowly, deliberately, as everyone is escorted to where they have a view of the back of the engine. You can see Drew Price's turnout gear there, his helmet from Truck 44, and his turnout coat. And facing away from us is the platform where they're actually placing him up in the back of the Academy engine for the recessional here. Also laying, you can't really see it now, but there's also a line drawing of the hang loose hand position there, where you like to say mahalo to everyone, to thank them for being who they are. Thank you for just existing. But before we get to the bell ceremony, as we hear going home in the background, and they're going to pause, and I do believe now we will be hearing a little bit more as the crowd falls silent. In the background, I do believe the bell ringing party has arrived. I don't know if we have.
Has returned home.
There we go.
With the sounding of this bell, firefighter EMT Andrew B. Price of truck company number 44 has returned home.
A series of 3 rings, a pause, a series of 3 rings, a pause, and a series of 5 rings. Now the playing of taps. The sound a little in the background there. As we come back to what we're seeing, we're very soon be having the engine move forward. The flags of the color guard lowered in reverence. The flags of the different battalions, 24 battalions and a special operations battalion, also lowered as the hand salute is held. The wind blowing at the end of Navy Pier. Pipers awaiting their cue. The hand salute has been waiting to see if there's, I do believe there may be a looking at the helicopter shot now on the left there. Hear the piper, sounds like a lone piper playing Amazing Grace at this time. Uniform members behind the battalion flags. Flag of the United States. The two ladders. One of them, truck 44, the truck that Drew Price drove, and he loved so well. Pipes playing Amazing Grace. It is at this point that many in the assemblage tear up, including myself. And the pipes, part of the tradition of the pipes at fire department funerals, it was, in the very early days, much more acceptable for a hardened and toughened firefighter to shed a tear at the sound of the pipes rather than what has actually occurred. So not only do you have the musical tribute and the deep solemnity of what's going on, the power of the moment and the power of that tribute, the pipes allowing you to be taken home by your brothers. And so we hold the formation in position with the command staff from the Chicago Fire Department, dignitaries from the city, family and friends, firefighters from the suburbs, elsewhere in the nation, at attention, and they will be watching as soon the engine will move forward and Andrew Price, firefighter, EMT, will go home after his final alarm. When I was watching this, Jim, I couldn't help but be, or at least in the back of my mind, hear the words from the poet laureate Maya Angelou and her famous quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And this young man, in his 14-year career at the Chicago Fire Department, made an immense impression, an imprint that will last forever among his colleagues and be passed on. Because this will be one of those guys where the lore of the firehouse, see that truck over there, see truck 44, as long as that rig is in service, and after that, when the next truck 44 comes in and the next truck, there was a guy here, boy, he was the best. We loved this guy to death, and he would do this and that and the other. to hear the stories and the love being conveyed by those stories among hardened firefighters at the firehouse. You're not just going out and putting out fires. You're on ambulance assistance calls. You're personnel when they need somebody who may be down on their worst day. They need maybe a little bit of help. And you're there. And this man smiled through it all.
Often said
even while his heart was breaking.
Often said to his fellow firefighters, "Good morning, my guy." That was his. That was his typical greeting.
Good morning, my guy, and the chatter in the cab of the noisy rig, and you can see the love here. All the flags have been dipped in reverence. The battalion flags have now been lowered to a 90-degree angle. The hand salute as we're getting ready to have the funerary party, the pallbearers. They very slowly will relax that salute as the order is given to release the salute, and that as the party departs the back of the Academy engine, you can see that the container with the earthly remains of Drew Price have been placed on a special platform. The hoses have been removed from the hose bed. There's been clearance given to allow the party to get up there to mount and dismount the back of the rig, to place lovingly the remains of their brother firefighter for his last trip on a fire apparatus from the city of Chicago, and then on to his eternal rest after doing a great job here in the city of Chicago. He's inspiring a lot of people, and the one thing that I always get, Jim, the one thing every time I've participated, unfortunately, both in person and here on our air in a firefighter's funeral, is that doggone it, wouldn't I have liked to have known this fella? He just would have been just your best buddy, your bestest best buddy. I would have loved to have been assigned to that engine. I would have loved to have just been walking past the firehouse and have him brighten up his face and come on over and greet you like a long-lost pal. And you feel a little cheated for not knowing a lot of the men and the women that are out there that are in the fire service.
And I think that his colleagues, excuse me, Chris, I think that his colleagues speaking today at the service and the fire commissioner wanted to make that point. You didn't know him, but we did, and we want to tell you about this man's life and how he treated other people.
And to take the opportunity to get to know your neighborhood firefighters, your police officers, stop by at the station, stop by there and say hello. Just a little thank you goes a really, really long way. And it's not about what you get paid to do a job like this. There's a passion that is there, there's a desire that supersedes all of that, that's deep down in an individual that wants to serve others. When you labor in the course of humanity, when you labor in the course of public safety, that there is a higher calling there, that it's not just learned. You're inspired by people that you meet as you're growing up. It's more than just lights and sirens on a big red truck. It has to do with how those people interact with you, and he has interacted with the citizens of Chicago. And as you can see from the turnout here, and from now, that rig is departing down the north side of Navy Pier. This will be a private interment afterwards. He will be going home with his family. And right now, we are in the final moments of the city saying goodbye, thank you, and we'll see you again. You've done well, and we'll take it from here. And the members of Engine 55 and Truck 44, after this is all over, after all of the the ceremony, after all of the accolades, they'll be getting back on those rigs and they're going to go back to work. And so for all of the firefighters families, every single person who has been impacted by a death in the line of duty or served this city, that this brings back a lot of memories for a lot of folks. But it should be noted, while we have the chance, to tell them, you know what? Your loved one's service to this city will never be forgotten. Well, Jim, this procession is going to be a short one. It's almost over. Mm-hmm. And as the Honor Guard and the members of Engine 55 and Truck 44 walk with their brother for the last time, the images are powerful. And it cannot be understated how much this man meant to so many people. So, Firefighter EMT Andrew Drew Price, mahalo, brother. We'll see you down the road. We'll take it from here.
Chris Habermill, always a privilege to spend this time with you. It's been a sad afternoon. You've been watching coverage of the funeral of Firefighter Drew Price, who died 1 week ago fighting a fire in Lincoln Park. He is the 4th Chicago firefighter this year to die in the line of duty. We will have much more ahead on CBSChicago.com and on television on our news at 4 o'clock. Have a good and safe afternoon, and thinking of Drew Price's family.